I'm almost there. Wait for me! Let's go, keep running!
Childhood should open like a field. Wide, curious, unhurried.
The recent road accidents in the Republic of Ireland and in England, where major fatalities occurred involving teenagers, is a wake-up call. A consistent warning emerges: the digital systems now shaping childhood are not neutral tools, but commercial environments designed to capture attention, extract data, and normalize surveillance. Reclaiming childhood requires neither panic nor technophobia, but a public commitment to protect developing minds, rebuild trusted relationships, and hold powerful companies to account. A childhood re-engineered for profit. The central argument running through this essay is that childhood has been drawn into an economy whose most valuable raw materials are attention, behavioral prediction, and personal data. What was once marketed as connection, creativity, and convenience has become, in practice, a sophisticated architecture of capture. Children are not merely using digital services, they are being observed, measured, nudged, and monetized within systems built to maximize engagement and commercial return. This is not an argument against technology. Schools, families, and public authorities all depend on digital tools, and many young people use them for learning, friendship, and civic expression. The false choice between uncritical technological enthusiasm and blanket technophobia obscures the real issue. The question is not whether children should live with technology, but whether the technologies surrounding them are designed around their welfare or around the revenue models of companies that profit from prolonged use. The essay's arc shows how this commercial logic reaches into emotional life. Empathy decline, diminished patience, heightened self-comparison, and the normalization of permanent performance are not isolated cultural accidents. They are predictable consequences of environments that reward visibility, speed, outrage, novelty, and self-branding. Childhood has been re-engineered, often invisibly, around metrics that serve platforms before they serve children.
When connection becomes extraction. Social media platforms present themselves as spaces of belonging, yet this essay repeatedly demonstrates that social connection has been privatized and converted into an extractive market. Each message, pause, like, share, search, and scroll can become a signal. Surveillance capitalism does not simply record what young people do, it seeks to infer what they might want, fear, buy, believe, or become susceptible to next. The permanent digital record is one of the most serious consequences. Childhood mistakes, experiments with identity, impulsive posts, and moments of distress can be preserved, indexed, traded, or resurfaced long after the context has disappeared. For previous generations, growing up involved a measure of forgetting. Today, the memory of the network can outlast maturity, remorse, and growth. Educational establishments and local authorities therefore face a new safeguarding challenge. Protecting not only children's immediate well-being, but their future dignity. Privacy and data brokerage deepen this concern. Personal information can move through opaque chains of collection, profiling, and resale. Even where individual services appear harmless, their combined data trails may produce intimate pictures of a child's habits, location, interests, vulnerabilities, and social world. The harm is not always dramatic or visible. It may lie in the quiet loss of autonomy before a young person is old enough to understand what has been taken. The human cost, attention, empathy, and identity. The developing brain is especially vulnerable to systems designed for interruption and reward. The treatment of attention harm should be read with care. Not every child who uses a platform will suffer the same effects, and correlation must not be confused with proof in every instance. Yet the broader pattern is difficult to dismiss. Environments built around infinite scroll, autoplay, variable rewards, and algorithmic escalation compete directly with sustained concentration, reflective thought, and the slower forms of learning on which education depends. Empathy is also at stake. When interaction is filtered through metrics, avatars, edits, and public performance, other people can become audiences, rivals, or data points rather than neighbors. The erosion is often subtle. A child may learn to read reactions before relationships, to seek affirmation before understanding, or to treat distress as content. Influencer deception, Hidden advertising and aspirational performance intensify the confusion between authenticity and marketing. Identity formation becomes more precarious when young people are invited to build a public self before they have formed a private one. The pressure to be seen, ranked, and approved can narrow the space for ordinary development. Schools and parents increasingly encounter children who are simultaneously connected and lonely, expressive and anxious, informed and overwhelmed. These contradictions are not signs of moral failure in young people. They reflect systems that have converted social belonging into a competitive marketplace. What the companies knew. A recurring theme in this saga is the gap between public reassurance and internal knowledge. Whistleblower evidence, internal research disclosed in public debate, regulatory investigations, and courtroom materials have all contributed to a more detailed picture of what some companies understood about risks to children and young people. Such evidence must be framed accurately. Allegations are not findings, and settlements are not admissions unless expressly stated. Nonetheless, the cumulative record has weakened the claim that harms were unforeseeable. The TikTok children's privacy settlement of $400 million, for example, should be described precisely. It was a settlement concerning alleged violations of the United States Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, with no determination of liability. That distinction matters, particularly in educational writing. Measured accuracy strengthens, rather than weakens, the case for accountability because it shows that the public argument is grounded in evidence rather than exaggeration. The wider issue is whether companies with substantial technical expertise, behavioral data, and research capacity can plausibly deny responsibility for design choices that encourage compulsive use, obscure advertising, enable data extraction, or expose children to harmful pressures. The evidence is clear: responsibility should follow power. Where businesses shape the conditions of childhood at scale, their duties must be proportionate to that influence. From private harm to public accountability. For too long, digital harm has been treated as a private family management problem. Parents are told to set limits, monitor use, install filters, and teach resilience. These steps can be valuable, but they cannot substitute for public accountability. A family cannot audit an algorithm, inspect a data brokerage chain, compel truthful advertising disclosures, or redesign an engagement-driven platform. Nor can one school, acting alone, correct a market that profits from distraction beyond the classroom gate. Government regulation is therefore not an optional intrusion into family life, it is part of the infrastructure needed to make family life possible. Age-appropriate design, enforceable privacy rights, restrictions on manipulative features, transparency over recommender systems, limits on behavioral advertising to children, and meaningful penalties for misuse of data all belong within a serious policy response. Local authorities, regulators, and courts each have a role in translating concern into enforceable standards. Courtroom evidence and public investigations also serve a civic function. They move debate beyond anecdote and reveal patterns that individual users could never see. At the same time, responsible public discussion must avoid presenting illustrative anecdotes as verified cases unless they have been properly established. The aim is not to inflame fear, but to build a durable factual basis for reform. The road beyond the screen. The consequences of online performance do not remain online. Discussion of dangerous behavior extending to roads and public spaces illustrates how digital incentives can spill into physical risk. Challenges, stunts, performative driving, filming while distracted, and the pursuit of viral approval can transform ordinary environments into stages. These behaviors should not be reduced to individual recklessness alone. They are encouraged by attention systems that reward spectacle and visibility. Educational establishments are well placed to address this connection between digital culture and public safety. Road behavior, consent, privacy, advertising literacy, emotional regulation, and bystander responsibility should not be treated as separate topics. They belong within a broader curriculum of digital citizenship, civic responsibility, and personal development. Young people need language for recognizing manipulation, pressure, and performative risk before those pressures become normalized. The metaverse rebranding should be viewed in this light. New immersive platforms may offer genuine educational and creative possibilities, but rebranding does not erase the underlying business model. If data extraction, behavioral profiling and attention capture are carried into more immersive environments, the risks may become more intimate rather than less. The road beyond the screen must therefore be guided by public values before commercial habits harden into social infrastructure. Why individual families cannot solve a systemic problem? Families remain essential, but they should not be left alone. Parents can establish device-free meals, protect sleep, delay access to unsuitable platforms, discuss advertising and model balanced use. They can encourage reading, outdoor play, conversation, boredom, friendship and unrecorded experience. These practices matter because children need adults who preserve spaces where they are valued for being, not performing. Household rules cannot defeat systems designed by some of the world's most powerful companies. A parent who says no may find their child socially excluded because the platform has become the peer group's unofficial venue. A school that restricts phones may face pressure from parents who expect constant contact. A local authority that promotes safety may lack the statutory tools to demand platform transparency. Individual discipline is necessary, but it is not sufficient. This is why communities must act collectively. Schools can align expectations on smartphones, homework platforms, and communication channels. Parent groups can agree on shared norms rather than leaving each household to negotiate alone. Libraries, youth services, sports clubs, faith groups, and voluntary organizations can provide real-world belonging that does not depend on commercial surveillance. Public authorities can convene these efforts and ensure that disadvantaged families are not asked to carry the greatest burden with the fewest resources. Reclaiming childhood as a public good. The civic principle, childhood is not merely a private phase managed by parents, nor a market segment to be optimized by platforms. It is a public good. A society that allows children's attention, privacy, empathy, and identity to be shaped primarily by commercial incentives should not be surprised when schools struggle to sustain concentration, families struggle to maintain trust, and communities struggle to cultivate care. Reclaiming childhood requires practical action at several levels. Families can create rhythms of rest, conversation, and shared attention. Schools can teach critical digital literacy while also protecting the conditions for deep work and humane relationships. Communities can rebuild opportunities for play, service, creativity, and intergenerational contact. Local authorities can treat digital childhood as a public health, education, and safeguarding issue, not merely a matter of consumer choice. National governments can regulate with seriousness, independence, and technical competence. When online recklessness reaches the road. Two recent collisions show why this discussion must include road behavior as well as online performance. On the 16th of August, 2026, 5 teenage males died after their vehicle traveled the wrong way on the M9 in County Kildare and collided head-on with another car. 3 women and a child in that other car were seriously injured. On the 22nd of August, 2026, 7 people died near Middlesbrough when a Volkswagen Passat carrying 5 people aged 17 to 23 travelled the wrong way on the A66 and collided with a marked police vehicle, killing all 5 occupants of the Passat and 2 police officers. These are the established public facts relevant here. The deceased young people need not be named for the lesson to be understood. It is equally important to distinguish fact, official concern, and inference. Investigations into the precise circumstances of both collisions are continuing, and the existence of dangerous driving videos online does not by itself prove that social media caused either collision. What Irish and UK authorities did raise, however, was a broader concern about online content that films, rewards, or glorifies dangerous driving, especially where attention, imitation, and status can attach to conduct that places others at risk. The social norm should therefore be stated plainly and without stigma. A road is a shared civic space, not a stage. Vehicles are not props, passengers and bystanders are not an audience. Lawful driving protects strangers as well as the driver, and filming or sharing reckless conduct must never confer status. Teenagers should hear that message before they are passengers, before they are drivers, and before a group dynamic turns risk into performance. Parents have practical duties in making that norm real. They should set explicit expectations about lawful road use, refuse to excuse vehicle taking or joyriding as youthful mischief, discuss passenger responsibility and the duty not to film or circulate dangerous conduct, know who is driving and where, and model calm, lawful road use themselves. Schools can teach digital status, peer pressure, and passenger responsibility together. Local authorities can design and maintain safer environments. Police can combine enforcement with prevention and community education, and platforms should reduce the visibility and reward of content that presents dangerous driving as entertainment. The goal is not to remove children from the modern world. It is to make the modern world answerable to childhood's needs. Young people deserve technologies that respect their privacy, support their learning, expand their imagination, and leave room for mistakes to fade. They deserve public institutions willing to distinguish innovation from exploitation. Above all, they deserve adults who act together. The collective call is therefore concise. Protect attention, defend privacy, restore real connection, and make the digital economy serve children rather than selling childhood to it. Conclusion: the future we choose. The central test is not whether children can be kept away from technology, but whether technology can be made worthy of children. Digital tools have a legitimate place in learning, creativity, and communication when they extend curiosity rather than capture it. They should serve children's development, not convert their attention, data, and still-forming judgment into commodities for commercial gain. That responsibility cannot rest with parents alone. Families need clear expectations, enforceable protections, and institutions that do not leave private households to negotiate with systems designed at far greater scale and sophistication. Schools, local authorities, government, technology companies, and communities each hold part of the duty to create environments in which children can learn self-command without being continually outmatched by persuasive design. The same principle extends beyond the screen. As the discussion of road safety suggests, responsible digital citizenship is not merely a matter of passwords, privacy settings, or screen time limits, it is also a civic habit. Children must be helped to understand that freedom is exercised within shared norms, that conduct online and offline carries consequences, and that respect for others is part of belonging to a common public life. The future we choose, then, should be one in which children are not treated as markets to be optimized, but as persons to be protected and prepared to defend their right to attention, privacy, human connection, room to make mistakes, and a childhood not organized around commercial engagement is not nostalgia, it is a commitment to the conditions in which young minds can grow freely, safely, and well.
Childhood should open like a field, wide, curious, unhurried.
This essay has been produced by Terome Technology. Until next time, bye.